All right, it is time for breakfast this morning. And welcome back to the channel, by the way. We have got a nice bowl of oatmeal, and I've got my sesame seed toast. This is something my mother made when we were little kids. She would put the butter, she'd warm the butter up on the stove. I'm using clarified butter, which means I boil it for a short time. It's just margarine. Boil it for a short time to get the wet waters in there out so that it's just butter. And you got to be really careful if you're trying to clarify butter. It needs to just slightly roll over for just a little while, just long enough to get the water out of it. And as long as there's water in it, the temperature will stay down to what boiling water would be. But once the water is gone, then the oil, the fat, will start to just rise in temperature, and it'll get immensely hot and eventually flash, which means you have a fire. So do be careful when you are doing clarified butter. Okay, this is not something that I have very often. It's of course got a lot of butter in it, so something I personally should be avoiding, and everybody should be. All right, it's a little bit of a sunny day. Perhaps you can see it out there. So I believe I'm going to go for my first neighborhood walk right after breakfast here and walk it off. And maybe try to do multiple neighborhood walks today. All right, let's have some food. I've had a couple bananas today. And now I'm ready for something a little bit more substantial. So this is the webpage that I was talking about. The webpage. YouTube. This is the YouTube channel I was talking about. It's called The History Underground. And I'll try to remember to put a link down in the description. And what the heck, maybe I should just put a link up here to it right now. Just get that taken care of and out of the way. So The History Underground, I've only watched one video, and then I noticed that he's got a lot of stuff about Adolf Hitler. And I'm very, very interested in World War II and Adolf Hitler. And I think the first one I'm going to watch is Exploring the Ruins of Hitler's Berghof History Traveler episode. So the Berghof is, of course, a place where Hitler spent a lot of time in, I want to say Bavaria. I don't think that's right. I think it's well, it's in Austria. It's very southern Germany, right on the border. And there's many photographs of him taken there with other people, and it looks like he's on top of a mountain, but it's actually the Berghof. So let's get started. And then I see the Eagle's Nest. So he's going to travel to the Eagle's Nest as well. And I know a little bit about both these places and some others. The Reich Chancellery in Berlin, and of course, the Führer bunker underneath the Chancellery, where Hitler ultimately committed suicide shortly after his 56th birthday. Okay, let's go ahead and get our video started.
At Bosch,
and of
freshly filtered
course,
ice
we're
should
going
always
to
be available.
suffer
Even
through
when
some
demand is high.
commercials. I have noticed
Right now,
that...
I am in.
We'll stop it for a minute. I have noticed that there is commercials or ads on my YouTube videos, and my channel is not monetized. I'm nowhere near being able to be monetized. So they have just automatically put ads on there. I don't get paid for any of that stuff. It's kind of annoying. I don't know how they're allowed to do that, but they're allowed to do that. So anyway, I don't make anything off of those ads. All right, let's get started. Give him a big old thumbs up here, so I can already tell this is going to be good.
Southern Germany, outside of the Bavarian town of Berchtesgaden. And when people think of
Volume down
Berchtesgaden,
a little
usually
bit.
the first thing that comes to
Alright.
mind is Hitler's Eagle's Nest. And while that is one of the more, I guess, dramatic features and dramatic construction projects here in the Obersalzberg area, Hitler was up there only a handful of times. I've heard as low as 10, as high as 14. Where most of his
Apparently he didn't
major
like
decisions
Eagle's
were made
Nest.
outside of Berlin was right here at this place where I'm heading today, at the Berghof.
The Berghof was quite a nice looking house. And up on the side of the hill. That is no longer there, of course. It was bombed out of existence. And I'm sure he's going to talk about it here. Episode 273. There's a lot of videos here I will be watching over time. Old footage. There, he's up on top of the Berghof there, overlooking a very beautiful valley.
Okay, quick disclaimer before we get to exploring today. We're going to have to use our imaginations a little bit. The Berghof and the Obersalzberg area was heavily bombed on April 25th of 1945. We'll talk a little bit more about that later.
Right there.
But
that's
much
it. What's left of it?
The structures around here were completely destroyed. The Berghof itself was heavily damaged, and in the early 50s was completely destroyed. So there are still things that we can see, and parts of these structures that we can still make out and learn from. So anyway, just a quick disclaimer before we get going today.
I would love to be making the trip there.
If we are going to talk about the Berghof, we might as well start at the beginning. We're going to get up to the Berghof site itself here in just a moment. But for Hitler and anyone who would have been visiting the
guardhouse right there.
Well, this is
the
road
what's left
that
of it.
you would have ascended to get up to the Berghof site. And if
Right
we would have
there,
been here
yeah.
in the 1930s or 1940s, there would have been an SS guardhouse right here. Let me jump up here and see.
I believe
if
it went completely
fall
across
down.
the road.
So there would have been,
just like that,
I said,
right
an
there.
SS guardhouse right
And you can see
here,
the Berghof
and then
up on
stretching
top.
across the road,
I
there
should
would
shut
have
up
been
now.
a wooden gate to kind of check people before they went up this road.
By the way, we're watching, still looking at the harbor cam.
We've moved up the hill a little bit, and we're looking in the direction that we just came from. So cars coming up to the Berghof would have come up this hill, and you would have come around a bend, and right here,
If you drive
where
away.
these vehicles are parked, going up that way would be the driveway for the Berghof. Now we're going to come back here in just a second. Something else that I wanted to show is this building right here.
The big,
This is the Zum Turken. This opened as a hotel in 1911. And after Hitler purchased the area where the Berghof currently is, well, this became a site of particular interest to him. And he, in later years, wanted to purchase it. The owner wouldn't sell. And when Hitler assumed power in 1933, well, they just arrested the guy and then took the property. It was turned over to Martin Bormann, if I remember correctly, who was the secretary for Hitler, and turned into kind of a headquarters for the Reich Security Service, or the RSD. So yeah, here is the Zum Turken. And one thing that would make this really an attractive spot, it sits up higher than the Berghof. So security could kind of have an overwatch over, Hitler's home. They could see anybody coming up this drive. And there was also an extensive bunker system that connected this building to the Berghof.
The Zum Turken. I didn't know the name of it. Looks vastly different now. All the trees, they weren't there before.
Okay, back down now to the end of the driveway. And again, as I mentioned, a lot of this area was destroyed, but you can still see some remnants. So right here, you can see a stone wall that would have been the edge of the driveway here at the Berghof. And we get around these vehicles here.
Wow, this guy does a really good
So we
job
come up here.
of this.
Well,
I can't wait to
The
watch all
driveway
these other
would have curled
videos.
around, and right up through here, this is the road that would have taken you, or the driveway that would have
driveway,
taken
yeah.
you to the Berghof. So Hitler's armored Mercedes would have made its way right up through here.
What a view from up there.
I bought this little
Dog
winch roller
on.
thing, and I got it today. And if you've seen it,
There we go. That's the driveway, the way it used to look.
Okay, we're making our way up the driveway now, and you might be asking yourself, why this spot? Why was this area so important? Well, it was in this general vicinity, not far from here, where Hitler finished his book Mein Kampf. And in the late 20s, he was able to purchase a house up here called the Wachenfeld House. And it really became attached to the area and the view and just the ambiance of this area. And in 1933, had an opportunity to purchase this property and then put it under a lot of renovations and really turn it into his second headquarters here in Germany. Okay, we are approaching the end of the driveway, not all the way to the end, so there would have been a garage up ahead of us. I'm going to try and throw in some archival photos and things like that to show where we are. But the vehicles would have stopped here, and then
There was a
there
flight
would
of
have been a
stairs.
set of steps that would have ascended
Apparently you're
up
gone.
to the Berghof site. So if we walk up here, we might be able to see some of those steps. A lot of this area was buried. Yeah,
That's
over
the
here.
first time I'm seeing what remains of the
Okay, so here
staircase.
is one of the steps that would
One
have
of them,
been
yeah, one
kind
of
of at the top of the staircase.
It might
that
be the
would
only
have
thing
brought
that
you
exists of it.
Right up here to Hitler's Berghof.
You would never know that all that once existed up there. And it belonged to such a monster. Such a monster. I love things like this. Absolutely love them. Learning.
Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, there's nothing really left of the Berghof itself. It was destroyed. On April 25th of 1945, the RAF had a huge bombing raid of the Obersalzberg, targeting this area in case Hitler tried to get out of Berlin and come down here and continue the resistance, continue the war effort. The building was heavily damaged. Whenever the guys from the 3rd Infantry Division got here, I think they were a little bit disappointed that the whole thing was kind of blown up. And then in the early 50s, well, they completely leveled this structure and blew it up. But we still have a bit of a footprint of the building in the form of this retaining wall and a few other ruins. So again, what we are looking at is the retaining wall that would have been on the back side of the Berghof. And when this site was destroyed in the early 1950s, the reason that they didn't destroy the retaining wall is, well, it's kind of holding up the side of the mountain right now. So there would be a little bit of slippage of the earth down into the road below, which would be a little bit inconvenient. So this is kind of the footprint of the Berghof. Again, the original building that Hitler would have rented was renovated and expanded upon so that he could entertain guests and also sit here with other members of the Nazi leadership and form their plans for the Third Reich. Okay, now again, we are really going to have to use our imaginations here. Where I am standing is the exact spot where the great room of the Berghof would have been. So out here you would have had like a red carpet, you would have had white walls with kind of a wood paneling at the bottom. If we were to look up at the ceiling, there would have been like this wooden lattice work structure. And at the back of the great room would have been a red marble fireplace. This is the exact spot where the fireplace stood.
I didn't know that one either.
Lots of important historic meetings took place. Again, I'm not saying that they were good, but that they were historic.
Certainly not
Neville Chamberlain
good.
was entertained.
So there's
in
a
this
fireplace
room.
back there.
Benito Mussolini, many heads of state came right here to the Berghof. Let me show you something else. So out here, this area.
This is the most
would have
detailed
been the front
look
of the
at
house.
Hitler's
I
Berghof
might
that
have
I've
to
ever
do
seen
a
so
little bit
far.
of looking. Yeah, okay, right over here. There, with that brickwork, right here.
Oh,
That's one corner of the house. And then it would have extended about 9 meters in this direction. You would have had this amazing view out here. And I'm looking, yeah, right here. Here's the other corner
more remains.
of the house. So you can see right here's the corner. And
Nobody pointed that out in the other video I've seen.
if you would have stood right here, well, you would be looking out
Big window,
the
yeah.
great window of the Berghof. There were 90 individual panes. It was this giant
I've seen
window
people
that could retract down into
show where the window was
basement.
at
So then you'd have
before.
like this open air view. And
I should shut up and just let him explain it.
right out here, Hitler could look, he could kind of see where there's this little V shape. Over there is Austria. So he could sit here in Germany at the Berghof and look into his homeland. Okay, now again, let me orient us as to where we are. Right here
Very
is
interesting.
the corner of the house. Right here is that giant window that retracts down into the basement. Now, there is a lot of video footage and photos and things like that that people commonly attribute to being taken at the Eagle's Nest. It was actually right here at the Berghof. Taken in this spot where I'm standing now on the terrace. As many people know, Hitler had a mistress by the name of Eva Braun. And somewhere along the line, Eva Braun got a hold of a video camera. And there are a lot of pieces of video footage that were shot right here in this very spot
I've heard
where
about
I am
that.
standing. So you can find these in the U.S. National Archives. They have the originals
Oh.
of Eva Braun's footage and have
That
it
I
available
didn't know.
online. But lots of pictures
More
here
things to
that
go
were taken.
look at.
One that we will be taking a look at in an episode of American Artifact. But yeah, Hitler would have spent a lot of time with dignitaries and other members of the Nazi leadership right here in this spot.
Well, I just need to finish the rest of my toast. Portrait of a Monster. So I'm going to end this video right now because it's getting too long, and finish watching the last few minutes of this. And you should check it out. Check out this channel. It's pretty cool stuff. Get to the commercials. And I am going to finish my breakfast and put a jacket on and go for my little neighborhood walk. Alright, that's it for now. We'll be back at lunchtime. Thanks for watching.